Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and welcome back to the Zombie Train. This week, we have the completion of Grass, and Dual Gauge. The Dual Gauge, when we get to it, you'll find out is particularly frustrating. And, I'm just gonna go ahead and blame Wiebold for that, because I don't know who else to blame. It's obviously not my fault. No, seriously, it can't be. Anyways, we just had to basically cover this up, and as has been stated, it turns out looking a lot better than we thought. And this is a fairly short segment of the episode. This is only going to be about 5 minutes at the most. So it's me, of course. I picked a different kind of grass for this, and now we've got different ground cover, and pretty soon, maybe not on camera, because we'll see what we do. And I've got some other sections to work on before going back to fiddly bits here. We are going to be doing some other stuff. I just got myself lost. I forgot what I was saying. At some point we'll come back and work on this, and just sort of, make sure that it all looks good and everything like that. So, now we're off somewhere else, I think. Did we have a cut in there? Hold on. No, we're not that far into the episode. Okay, so I got distracted and went and did something else, I think. Oh, yes, of course. There was attachment to be done. Now, this is not the most complete... How much do we do in this on-camera work here? Let's find out. See, this was attaching stuff extraordinaire. Move this into position, figure out where it needs to go, kind of count the segments there, and go OK and delete the relevant segments and put it back again. There we go. Now we've got that all attached, and I think we have to work out our route exactly. And just give it a minute while it sorts everything together. The map has gotten quite large recently, so it's become difficult to work. Not too difficult, but in some cases it's a little bit more performance-consuming than it has been in the past, and there have been significantly greater amounts of lag spikes, and the actual time it takes to save the map has, of course, dramatically increased, because it is much, much larger. Actually, with that in mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and release the hotfix now, sort of on camera. Because last time, what I was doing was getting everything connected. And this time, or last time, this is... Actually, I'm not even sure if this is aired, or airable. Okay, so, here's this. I had some serious troubles with these switch stands, and getting them to agree with the fact that switches exist. And so, there was a lot of hopping in and out of game here. And, it eventually came to fruition, but it was just kind of... It was tricksy, and it involved a lot of me dragging switch stands around and dragging track around, so... This is basically an ode to my frustration. And you see how the switch dialogue disappears when I put that section back? It's strange. And then eventually I just said, you know what, screw this, we'll see what happens. And I think I go into game. And you'll see that coming up here in a second. This is not the right folder. Alright, so here we go, we're going into game. Start on the boat, of course, because that's, for whatever reason, the default anything. And I did happen to notice that, I can't answer that right now. I did happen to notice that the switch stand worked out, so I just sort of trusted it from this point forward, unless it told me specifically that the switch was not gonna work. Okay, so I noticed it wobbled back and forth here, and this is when I started my endeavor to actually get the dual gauge sorted. And I was originally going with a much more complex and annoying way to actually get it done, so I do regret wasting a lot of time trying to figure this out and then going, oh, wait a minute, I can just do this. And so what I ended up doing was just basically overlapping the spline points and slightly offsetting these guys. And it worked out pretty well in a lot of cases. It got a little bit confusing in the tunnel, but I don't know how well that'll work. Alright, where is it? I'm looking for a thing called the Iron Horseman Railway, which should be down here. It's not. Oh, that's because they're sorted by category, like I asked them to be. Of course. Let us go and find our route. There can't be too many of them. I've only made a handful. Of course, now I'm sat here looking for it. Alright, so here we are. The Iron Horseman Railway V.5, marked as 8/2015, but I'm going to export that as, save that to CDP. Oh, here's the tunnel. The tunnel was a particular problem. Like, everything up until here was smooth sailing once I finally figured it out. But the tunnel became an instant problem due to the fact that it's underground. I cannot answer this phone call. I'm going to go ahead and save this out. It's 0.5.1 now. Anyways, so here we are. Sorry, I forget you guys aren't listening to music as well. I don't know why I do that while I do this. It may be just to keep me from losing my mind. But I realized at some point along here that I was building dual gauge on the wrong side of the track, and I had to go back and fix that. I will point out that we are 1, 2, 3-ish, 4-ish, actually, minutes into working on the dual gauge. And so multiply that by 8, it comes out to be 32 minutes. So about a half an hour of dual gauge work had gone by. If you want a good sort of ideal, I guess. Oh, it wasn't here, was it? No, wait, no, it had to be. There was only... How many tunnels were there? Oh, there were 2. There were 2 tunnels. We're not at the tunnel that screwed me over. That tunnel, of course, was difficult, but it wasn't too bad, because it was a straight line. The next tunnel is a curved tunnel, which changes elevation during its course as well. So that basically made it nigh impossible for me to set it up properly, and I still don't know how it looks in the middle of the tunnel. The tracks may be driving into the wall. Oh, little autosave there, don't worry about it. Anyways, yeah, so this really confused me because I didn't realize for far too long that the walkway, the planks there, are their own spline. They're not an object. So I was getting really confused with how everything was being sorted out. And it was actually kind of helpful for me to realize where the actual spline points were by putting the track down and going, okay, well, this is where it works. Alright, so here's the tunnel. The biggest problem with the tunnel was that to force it, this is where I put the track on the wrong side, I think. To force it to be curved, there's a spline point in the middle of it, which I had to line up with via the map. And of course that was damn near impossible. But Wiebold, I have no idea how you did it. And of course I don't even know if you did it well at any point, so I can't really commend you on it, or, curse you for it, because you may know a better way to do it than I do. Anyways, it really didn't end up being that difficult at all, except for this section. And then I got this guy lined up, and I ended up using more spline points than were included in the standard gauge, only so that I could set the thing straight and keep it from poking up out of the track or dipping down into the standard gauge track at any point. By the way, as of me saying this, I have in fact completed the main line almost. There is one city that's missing completely, but the rest of it is done with an asterisk. And of course, there's no scenery along most of it, and no signals either. That's kind of what I have to work on. I might devote an episode to signaling on the route and make sure everything is consistent and everything makes sense. Because that may well be the most difficult part of it. The tricksy thing is, what makes sense for the player may not make sense for an AI train. And frankly, because we're humans and we can think, I generally end up setting stuff up just so that the AI can get it, and sort of let the people fill in the gaps. It may lead to some very long blocks, where you can't follow a train very closely, but that's okay, in a general sense. Now I'm going to go ahead and find this file that I just created. Well, this thing goes in the background. That's not the right thing. Here we are in Maps. Good luck for those of you who want a copy of this. I'm not at will to hand it out yet. Perhaps someday soon. Maybe towards the end of the summer, maybe towards, or not towards the end of the summer, maybe towards winter, actually. Everything is attached, so that's good. It's good, it's good. Alright, so we made good progress once we made it out of there, and I believe there's a point at which I made it to some sort of sign that Wiebold had put up and went, okay, this is good enough, I'm going to go to the other end and work backwards. Because the other end was another sort of problem. It wasn't really a problem, but it's where we noticed the screw-up originally. And frankly, something leads me to believe I was suckered into building the dual gauge, because there was no track here at all. There wasn't even like a missing spline. It was just gone. Oh, little hiccup here, don't worry about it. Of course, we had a couple of incidents like that, and the track swings wildly out. But the way to tell that you've got it on course is the second, that there's only 3 rails visible. And coming back and equalizing the height was simultaneously the easiest and most frustrating part of it, because it involved clicking on the same spot to click on 2 different things, and it was sort of a 50-50 shot that you got either one. Which, as I've learned in the past couple of days, 50-50 is not good odds. This is why I don't gamble. Except for in XCOM. Alright, so, obviously it's a bad sign if the third rail is buried in the ties of the standard gauge track, so that was a eye-opener. Alright, so I got to that sign, I went to this end of the map, and of course there's a broken spline there. Brought that in there, figured out, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. There's some track that shouldn't exist. Got rid of it, despite all the hard work that undoubtedly went into putting it there. Placed my track and just sort of started going. And honestly, again, we made quick work of this section now that we knew what we were doing, and there wasn't really anything unusual or particularly interesting to throw at us. The bridges, and especially the tunnels, the switches were particularly infuriating. I can understand how that'd be bad. But, everything like that. And then getting this lined up was another matter entirely, but it was done pretty easily. So, with that being said, I needed to finish the switch stands here, which wasn't too big of a deal now that I knew how to do it. Just making sure each one was on the proper track. And it worked out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Trainman out.